What's happening, people? Welcome back to a Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. Today is all about Tottenham and transfers, what I call a Tottenham transfer window update and discussion. Always a lot to discuss in typical Tottenham style, leaving it late to do business with several gaps in the squad. I think there could be a collective agreement amongst the panel tonight. So let's go through and introduce them. Kallum, welcome back on. How are you doing? And talk to people a bit about who you are.
Yeah, no, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm actually quite bubbly tonight, so it's all right. I'll try not to be negative, but so I'm Kallum from Park Lane Podcast, Scarfey Spurs Talks, and Spurs Diehards. So it's adding titles to it each time I'm on by now, but I'm loving it, mate. So thanks for having me back on.
No worries. It certainly is getting bigger for you, but that's credit to you. You must be doing something right, I guess. So thank you very much for your time this evening. Sean, welcome back on. It's been a little while. How are you doing? Again, remind people a bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, I'm part of the sort of wider Paxton Road TV family, but I suppose I also do some work with Digi Spurs. I've been a Spurs fan for more years than I counted. I worked out that this is my 58th season of attending Tottenham this season when I went to the Burnley game. So yeah, I'm a bit long in the tooth, seen lots of change, and just been a regular fan I'm 64 now, so you can work it out for yourself.
Lovely stuff. No, I appreciate your commitment to the club. Thank you very much, Sean, for your time. Joey, welcome back onto the podcast. How are you doing? Again, remind people a bit about what you do, in particular on YouTube.
Hi, guys. Hi, Harry. Thank you for having me on first and foremost. I'm Joey. I represent another company called Bench Sport TV, who I'm involved with. I also come on Scarfey Spurs Talk as well. Big Spurs fan, season ticket holder, and I'm a content creator and presenter and host. So yeah, that's me.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much. And last but absolutely not least, Phillip King. Thank you very much for coming on, joining us live as always from Germany. Remind people who you are, what you do, and most importantly, how you're doing as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me on as always, Harry. It's a pleasure. I'm not massively active in terms of kind of podcasting and stuff yet, but I'm on Twitter X mainly at Frankfurt Spurs. Mainly tweet about Tottenham, a bit about Eintracht Frankfurt, which is my kind of adopted second local team here. I am British though, and I moved out here like 15 years ago. I've been a Spurs fan since I was about 6 or 7, so that makes it about 35 years now. Always love talking about Spurs, anything Spurs related, to be honest. We've been through a lot of highs and lows, haven't we? Let's get on with it.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much for coming on, every single one of you. And thank you to everyone who's coming in, who's listening as well. If you're listening live on YouTube, please do get involved, like and subscribe. For listening afterwards on a podcast platform, please do drop a follow and a 5-star review. And I very, very much hope the time this podcast gets to you that we would have signed someone or got Here We Go. Having said that, the last two Here We Goes haven't gone down very well. So maybe I need to find a different phrase. But nonetheless, let's get straight into it. Kallum, can I kick it off with you? If the transfer window shuts tonight, let's say no more incomings or outgoings, what would you rate it out of 10?
If I get to shoot Daniel Levy, I'd rate it an 8. But at the moment, I don't think that's very likely. So I'm going to go with a 5. I think that'd be fair. We've addressed some crucial areas. They have been an improvement on what we had before, but still not enough. Still not enough, mate.
No, that's really fair. I think that's an honest rate, and I'm going to back you up on that and go with a 5 as well. Sean, would you going to rate it? To be clear, 10 is the highest, 0 can be the lowest.
Probably about the mid mark. As Kallum said, we've addressed a very important hole in the middle of our midfield, but again, I'm worried about the depth. All we need is a string of injuries, which we know are never too far away, and we're in trouble. I just feel that Thomas Frank, who's he's really won us over quite quickly with the way he set up our teams, is being left short again. And I'm a bit concerned with 4 competitions to go for that we'll be caught short. But so midpoint, we've got 2 additions in Paulinho and Kudos, particularly Kudos, are just top draw. But there's so much pruning to do as well. But we need quality, and there are potential pitfalls ahead.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So we're going to midpoint as well. We're going to obviously dissect and unpick why we think that and where we can improve. But let's focus mainly on ratings for now. Joey, can I get yours?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the rest of you guys. I'm going to give it a 5. I think, again, like Kallum said, we've addressed 2 areas that were major seriousness to us. Kudus has been top draw. Paulinho was top draw on Saturday, and I think obviously he might not be everyone's biggest choice for a number 6, but I think he's definitely an upgrade to what we have, and he can play the role that we need him to play as well. So I'm pleased with those 2 so far. But again, I definitely agree that we need a lot more reinforcements.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll share that, and lots of others will. Phillip, can I get your rating out of 10?
Yeah, exactly the same, really. I'd give it a 5 in terms of the overall window. In terms of the incomings, like if I look at the quality of the incomings, I'd actually give those incomings a 9 out of a 10 because the signings that we've made have been bang on the money. Kudus, amazing. He's over-exceeded my expectations so far, especially with his defensive work, to be honest. Tracking back, his pressing, and we got him for a good price as well, to be fair, I think, in the end. And, Paulinho, in on a loan with quite a good price to make it permanent. He's had an immediate impact. So, and then I guess we've still got Danzo and Tell kind of on top of that, right, who at least we made permanent. So yeah, the quality's been good, but just because the quantity's lacking, and we've obviously got massive holes in our, in our pasta sieve, right, where we know literally what we need, and there's just no sign of us getting any closer on a daily basis. I think we're all praying, aren't we, that we address those issues, and if we do, then that 5 out of 10 can very easily go up to an 8 out of 10, right? Or even higher, right? It could go up to a 9 out of 10 for the whole window if we get it right. But at the moment, yeah, it's 5 out of 10 with a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think that's very forward. I was thinking in my head 4 to 5. We've done well, but still a lot more to do. Hope the club get on with that. Sean, can I come to you? Do you think it's a case of we have a really good A team, a really good 11, but it doesn't go much further than that, maybe lack the depth to achieve the club's goal of competing in all 4 fronts? You're on mute, Sean.
Yeah, that's definitely the case, Harry. That it's the lack of depth that I'm concerned about. At the minute, for example, we're supposedly going to try and limp through. Well, if it was to close tonight, we're going to limp through till early next year before we see Kulusevski comes back. So we're going to. What's that going to mean? We're going to run the legs off of Papa Matsar. It's depth as much as quality that I'm concerned about. Given the chairman has set the target for be competitive in all competitions.
Indeed, Joey, would you say that we are ready to compete on all 4 fronts? Has Frank been given the tools? It doesn't certainly look that way.
Not at all. And I think this is a problem that we've been dealing with for the past 8-9 years with the Poch years. We've always had an amazing 11, but never had the squad depth to really compete and get us over the line in previous years. So it just seems like a self-fulfilling prophecy that we keep having to go through under Daniel Levy, really. And as we've seen over the past 6 weeks or so, it's like no wonder we're getting ourselves into these situations because of how we're conducting business and how we're trying to operate as a football club. And it shouldn't be the case, really. And this was why we continue to fall short.
Indeed, thank you. Kallum, do you think we're get to maybe the busy period, play 2 games a week when the Champions League kicks in and other competitions, and we could get 1, 2, 3, maybe injuries, if not more, and things start to fall apart?
Yeah, realistically, I think you're right, mate, because, we're already struggling on the injury front. We're still without our, i.e. first choice left back and our first choice number 9. already, being fully available for a 90-minute game, and that's only game week 3 in. So it doesn't really inspire confidence. Missing both our 10s out injured, and realistically, if you want to really drop down as far as you go, well, you'd say your backup centre back in Dragosin being out, and then stuck with Brian Hill and Solomon on the end of that, which are 2 names which I don't want to mention more than this statement, but they are sort of our utility backup wingers if we was ever going to have to use them, and even they're out injured as well. So we are lacking in available numbers. At least we've got the numbers in the squad, it's just available good numbers, I think, is the most reasonable way of putting it.
That'd be very fair. Thank you, Kallum. I agree with that. Phillip, for you, do you think Frank is currently being set up to fail, or do you think he's got the team that he needs to succeed?
I don't think he's being set up to fail, per se. I mean, obviously Frank's used to working with lesser players, and he's, I think, genuinely a manager who can get, the most out of a squad, whoever's in that squad. I think he's proved that. And I think he'll show himself even more quite quickly that he can do that with Spurs. It's not an excuse not to go and sign the players, though, right? They're going to take us to the level that we want to be, and we have good players. We have a good starting 11. If you look at how we played so far this season and how we probably could play with, the likes of Kulusevski coming back in a couple of months, and those additions on top, I think we would have genuine chances for top 5. I think we could qualify for the Champions League with those additions. So I don't think he's being set up to fail, because I think that, let's just say that we didn't sign anyone until Monday, which would, be a disaster. But let's just say that it happens. Yeah, let's just say that it happens, right? If it did happen, I still think Frank would probably get us a top 8 finish, right? Just because I think we still have enough in the squad, and outside of the top 6 anyways, we'd be competing with the likes of, I guess Brighton, whoever else. Newcastle probably finish above anyways if that was the case, right? So,
but Phillip, sorry to interrupt, but you not think we could should be doing more, and like being, instead of finishing inside the top 8, go, come on, Frank, we can get inside the top 6 with a couple of more bodies. Recruitment.
Well, yeah, we should be doing more. I mean, that's the point. I don't think he's being set up to fail, because I don't even know what outside of saying, let's have a good finish in the league, let's compete in all trophies, let's have a little run in the Champions League, let's try and win a domestic trophy, let's see where we can finish in the league with an aim to kind of get near the top. I would say that's probably Frank's target. I'm not sure that Levy would have specifically said to him, you need to finish like top 4 or top 5, because I'm pretty sure that Frank, even though he's new, Frank doesn't seem to be a yes man. I don't think Frank's just sitting there as well, kind of saying, oh, I'm happy with whatever, like behind the scenes, he'll know what he needs already, to be able to get top 5. So he's not being set up to fail, but like we need this little investment now. And we're not even talking that much, right? We spent this window peanuts compared to the other teams. And if you include Son's money that's coming in, 20 million plus whatever else, we'll end up spending like 60 million. That's just unacceptable. So from that perspective, he's kind of being set up to fail, but only then because like we just don't seem capable or willing or whatever just to make that next little investment. To get, even if we spent 150 million in the end, we'd still be far behind our rivals. But that would probably mean that we would have found enough, that we would have brought these other 2 in on top, and then I think we'd be fit for purpose. So, this is just why I'm frustrated like now, because it doesn't seem that we're getting any closer to doing that. And we all know what's happened over the last couple of weeks and 6 weeks or whatever. And I'm sure if in the end we scrabble around on deadline day and end up with second-rate, signings that we didn't actually want to get in, what's the point, really? Is Frank going to be happy with that? It's incompetence in that case. Someone in the line is being incompetent, and whether that's Levy, Lange, or even Paratici potentially, right? In some cases, I know we praise Paratici, we love him, or the Don, but something there is not quite working. And to be honest, it probably is Levy when it comes down to it. But again, everyone's got different opinions, and we'll get into more detail on it.
You absolutely will. And Paratici is a big part of what I want to talk about a little bit later. Thank you, Philip. Sean, can I come to you? How many players do we need? In the rest of the window for Monday? Let's forget about whether it's realistic or not for a minute. How many gaps do you see in the Spurs squad?
Well, I would say that we need a number 10. We need a left winger because we've not really replaced Sonny. And I would say we need cover at the back, particularly someone who can do left back or left centre back. Because at the moment we're relying on Ben Davies to cover those two positions, and with the best will in the world, he's not what going to take us to the levels that we want. So I would say at least 3. But when you look at the benches of the teams around us currently, and the depth that they've got is out of this world compared to what we've got, and that's my concern, that we haven't got game changers, if you like, off the bench.
No, it's true. Thank you very much, Sean. And I'm going to ask the whole panel this, and this is forgetting about whether it's realistic or not, how many gaps we see in the Tottenham squad, somewhere you think that needs more reinforcement. A little bit later, I'm going to get onto next, like, what are the priorities, what can wait, what will happen. But this is just where we think, because I'm going to be totally honest with you, I see about 3 or probably 4. Kallum, how many for you, gaps is there in the squad?
I'd say 2, maybe 3, because we've still got to account for the players to return. That's my sort of question, because then you're going to have registration issues after that.
Yeah, we can't seem to move players on. So no, you're absolutely right with that. Joey, what about for you?
I'd say about 2 or 3 myself. Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. I'd say in the 10 left wing, and I'd say the number 10, obviously left wing, left back. Even I'm more than happy with what Jed's doing. I'd say left back to be more orthodox. And then I'd probably, depending on the Richarlison situation that everyone keeps banging on about, I'd say maybe up front, but that's not a major priority. But yeah, I'd rather we improve in that area. But yeah, that's what I'd go with.
Okay, thank you. For me, there are 4 gaps. Thank you, Kallum. We're never going to address them. We're never going to address all the issues. For me, there's 4. I think number 10, left winger, left back, and centre back. Centre back, I'm really concerned about. I do want to touch on that later, especially if Phillip and Vuskovic go on loan. I'd actually argue one of the top priorities for me all of a sudden because of the players that are out injured. But Phillip, for you, I mean, you've been Mr. Positive so far tonight. How many gaps are there in the Tottenham squad, though?
Yeah, I'd say there's actually like 3 or 4, really, if you're looking at it critically. In an ideal scenario, I agree with Joey about the left back situation. I love what Jed's doing there at left back, but I just have an issue with like right-footed left backs. And he's done well so far, but I know Udogi's coming back, but I kind of think that maybe other teams are going to work out how to counter Jed on the left, and maybe if he plays on the left as well, without as soon as someone like Mickey doesn't play kind of inside of him, that might affect things as well. But look, that's not a big problem. I mean, at the end of the day, he's doing a good job there. We've still got Udogi. I would have said we do need like a left centre back who can play left back. So that's why the rumours of Hincapi, or I think today we were linked with Nathan Ake, who could probably do a job at left back. Someone like that I think would be good to have if we could have another option who can play both roles. But obviously the clear problems are number 10 and on the left wing. And we don't have a number 10 at the moment. Sarr can't play there every game. We don't really have anyone else. Tell can't really play there. Odebert isn't a number 10. we need that number 10. We need a left winger as well, but I mean, we have options there at least. Let's say we don't sign a left winger now until Monday. We can at least still play, obviously, Brennan there, Tell there, Odebert there. You know, Udogie could even probably play as a left forward, you know, if he really had to, right, on occasion, but that's not a solution. But the number 10 is the critical point, right? If we don't, we need a number 10. We need number 10.
We absolutely do. I mean, why have we got to this point? It's just incredibly frustrating. I think a lot of people also forget, and myself included sometimes, that we remember we were going for Gibbs White when we had James Madison. He wasn't injured. Now we didn't land Gibbs White, and Madison's out injured. We're left with no number 10, let alone 2 number 10s. And that's on top of Kulusevski. And that's the thing. Kulusevski's been pushed back. He's expected back about now. Looks now like going into the new year. So that's quite a big setback. I don't quite know what's gone on there. I'm not going to pretend that I do.
Guys, Grimsby are 1-0 up, by the way, just to put it out there.
Really? Serious?
I'm being dead serious.
Good old Man United.
Harry as well. Frank is on record saying he wanted 2 number 10s.
Yeah, not going to get it.
So he's we've got none currently fit to play that role at the moment, and it's going to be a concern. Having said that, let's not get too down, and we've just given Man City an absolute doing at their place. We've got a very, very good first team.
Yeah.
It's just when the demands game on game come on, that's when the concern rises, and there does seem to be a bit of disharmony in recruitment. If I was being, just as someone looking out from, that there doesn't seem to be a match between Lange and Paratici, and I'm a wee bit concerned that's hampering us as well.
Okay, no, good point. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to go through the panel, and the question is, if you could just choose one, if Tottenham could only sign one for the window shut, would it be a number 10 or would it be a left winger? And the difficult thing about this question is you can only choose one. Who thought we'd be in this situation, which is frustrating, but we don't know who it's going to be. I'm not even going to let you choose who. So that makes it incredibly difficult. So you could say number 10, it might be someone you don't want at all. So I don't want why. I just want the position first. Kallum, can I start with you? 10 or left winger?
10.
Thank you. Sean?
Very easy. It's a 10. I mean, as Phillip says, we've got options at left wing.
Okay, thank you. Joey?
A 10, no brainer.
Lovely. Phillip, I think I know what you're going to say as well. Number 10?
Yeah.
Left back.
Let's not complicate it. Okay. Right. The next question is, what positions can wait till January? We've spoken about, kind of gaps that we think's in this team. So, Kallum, can I come back to you? What do you think is a position that we need but can wait to January? What comes to me is maybe something like fullback cover.
Yeah, it's either got to be fullback cover or maybe a second 6 sort of thing. Because, I mean, even though Paulini is good and he's coming off the back of less than a season and like less than half a season's worth of football. So there's only so much you can expect of him to do there, I think. So maybe someone like that. And if Biss is going to go out like what they're all saying about Galatasaray being interested, I think that maybe a backup midfield option there. I guess that's kind of where the Gibbs White stuff came in, where he was a little bit of an option earlier in the year. So, yeah, probably either a fullback or a midfielder for me. Okay,
thank you. Joey, what can wait to January for you?
Yeah, I'd say left back. Sorry, Phil. I think we'll be all right at left back.
Okay. Let's not start as left back saga. Thank you. No. Sean, can I come to you? A slightly different question. Do you think that we have a job to do in January that maybe like these roles would be distributed? The club probably look at it and Frank's probably saying, look, 2-3 players that he probably needs. Can you see them saying, look, wait for probably 2 of them until January? And do you think that's okay?
Well, it depends on how well you've done in the competitions. You could be out of the Carabao. You could be out of out of contention for the Champions League. I mean, I'm not expecting that, but I think this is the problem. You can't predict what January is going to be like. and I think it's very difficult to expect. You know, I mean, to be fair as well, Frank hasn't really got a good experience at Brentford in cup competitions, does he? I mean, I don't remember them going deep in any cup competitions. But, I mean, I think they played us in the semi-final of the Carabao once, but that's about it. I think I think we need leaving him a hostage to fortune or waiting until January could be very, very. It's a risk. It's a risk in my view.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Sean. That's what I wanted to ask. Phillip, again, different question for you. Why haven't we got deals done? I'm thinking about Eze. I'm thinking about Gibbs White. Of course, individual situations, both complicated for their own reason. We don't, know too much. We can only go off what we hear from reports, which is obviously not always the full story. Who would you say is to blame for this reoccurring theme?
The left back, possibly. No, in all seriousness, I think. Well, look, I mean, every case has been a bit different, so it's hard to, again, generalize, I think. But in my opinion, still very involved in everything and kind of leading the negotiations from what I understand. Actually, Lange, I don't know. I think Lange has been there more for kind of brokering contacts and kind of identifying players and stuff. I don't think he's actually kind of running the negotiations. Levy seems to still be too hands-on. So I'd actually say, in terms of how we're approaching the negotiations, what we're offering initially, how quickly we're offering it. I think it came out in the last couple of days that, Palace just kind of pretty much hate us, or the Parish hates Levy, and vice versa, and that they kept changing the goalposts as well. And with Marinakis, who knows? The Eze thing overall was just a bit of a farce, really. I'm not even sure that. I'm being positive about this one now. I was kind of being very negative about the club and us being too slow, but I'm actually not even sure that we would have got Eze over the line if we'd acted differently initially. For all we know, Palace may have blocked it. They may have stalled it as long as they could. I think Arsenal probably were always going to come in for him, looking at it that way. But the fact remains is that whatever negotiation we're doing at the moment, whatever kind of player we're linked with, or whatever player we start talking about with clubs, it's not happening. The latest one being Savinho today. And I think it comes down to how we're approaching the negotiations. So we're obviously identifying a lot of players, right? We're identifying the players, but we're not kind of getting them to advanced stages. So I think that comes down more to the negotiating team and how we're putting bids in and what we're saying to them, which we don't really know at the end of the day. But that's my feeling on it.
Appreciate that, Phillip. Thanks again. Probably this podcast will lighten up. I've got some more positive stuff about targets we could look to and what we think we're going to get done. But the last kind of negative question I'm going to give to you, Kallum. Why do we keep being snubbed or rejected by players? Does that hurt you, and why? Why does it keep happening?
Well, one scenario is the Gibbs White one. He was held at gunpoint and threatened to be extradited somewhere. So that's why that deal fell down. The SA one's a difficult one, to be fair, because we've heard all the reports from The Athletic, from Football London, from Ben Jacobs, from Fabrizio, all of that. That one, I think he's a little bit of Spurs, but a lot of Steve Parish and brinkmanship with Arsenal as well. But it seems to be a running theme, doesn't it, that so many do reject us. And I think that obviously other clubs can pay more money. They're willing to pay the money more up front as well, to be honest. It's a difficult one, to be honest. But I think that because we're aiming for this next level of player now, i.e. which we are targeting, we will see more rejection than acceptance, if you get what I mean. Before we was going for these young players, we're one of the only clubs looking for them, so they'll more likely accept us and stay at their existing clubs. But when you do see it, it doesn't really inspire confidence, does it? That when your two biggest targets have rejected you, i.e. throughout it, and then other big players that we've gone for have as well. But I think it's down to wages, down to also people wanting to either... Well, some of the clubs we're trying to buy them off of don't want to sell. That's the thing as well. I think that's what we've got to realise. Or they've been held to a new contract as well, or they can't replace them. So a lot of the rejection now, at least in the window, will be down to clubs not being able to get replacements in. That's sort of my gut feeling. But it's a multitude of reasons, not just one. And I don't think Levy can be at blame for this or the negotiating team just for a player rejecting you. Let's put it that way.
Okay, no, it's interesting to hear. We often have people that will blame Levy, so it's good to get that other side. So I do appreciate that. I want to move on to Fabio Paratici next. People haven't seen the news. Ben Jacobs of IGB Sport reported earlier in the week that Fabio Paratici is set to return to Tottenham in an official role. He goes on to say an agreement is already in place for him to start in the role, starting no later than the 1st of October this year. He will return to lead recruitment, just as he did previously. So I'm just going to go over some of Fabio Paratici's signings when he was previously Tottenham's director of football before we review his kind of time at the club and talk about what this means for the future of transfers. So all the signings of what happens, all the fees are from transfermarket.co.uk. So in the 21-22 season, we've got Galini on loan. Also got Brian Gill for 21.6 million plus Eric Lamela. Romero was a loan of £42.5 million. Sarr, £14.6 million. Emerson, £25.7 million. Kulusevski, £10.5 million loan, plus £25 million buy. Bentancur, £21.6 million. Then the 22-23 window, Perisic was a free. Forster was a free. Basuma, £35 million. Richarlison, £60 million. Longley was a loan. Udogie, £18 million. Spence, £20 million. Danjuma, £2.5 million loan. Porro, £6 million loan, plus £33.5 million buy. And then lastly, the 23-24 window, we had Vicario 17.2 million, Madison 40 million, Solomon 3, Phillips 2 million, Van der Ven 43 million, Valise 13.4 million, Johnson 47.5 million. So that is Fabio Paratici's signings as the director of football. So firstly, Kallum, before we review his time at the club, is this news of him coming back in an official role good or bad for Tottenham Hotspur?
I think it's positive because from what a lot of people have reported, there'll be a sort of an established hierarchy as such, where one's going to work, him and Langer will work together, but Langer will do what he's good at, young transfers and talent ID. Paratici will have his pocketbook out and be able to wheel a deal like Del Boy down the market on a Saturday morning. So it does have its advantages. But I think this is like this one secret that we've known all along, that even where he was meant to be banged up in and getting put in prison or all of that, he still stayed in the club in the consultancy role. So he's never really gone away. It's just realistically he didn't have a title, if you get what I mean. So I don't think it really shocked anyone, did it? It's just that now his band's up, we can officially bring him back as a sporting director or whatever they want sort of capacity.
Okay, that's interesting. Sean, do you think this is good for Tottenham?
It's a bit of a mixed bag when you look at some of those names. I think of Brian Gill. I can't believe that we gave up Eric Lamela, and then we loaned Gill back to Sevilla along with Eric Lamela, and they go on to win the Europa League. I mean, that is madness. And then the Johnny Cardoso, was he involved in the Johnny Cardoso nonsense with Betis and Gio Lo Celso? I mean, I mean, historically, Paratici at Juventus was great when he was number 2 to Marotta. But once Marotta left and went to Inter Milan, well, you saw the decline of Juve, and they're still trying to get back to their previous dominance in Serie A even now. So I like. He's a great character. He's a great story, and he seems really when fans meet him at games, he's really good from all accounts. But is it all vibes and no and not efficiency? I mean, probably the best thing he ever did for us was Kulusevski and Bentancur on the last day of the January window when Conte was here. But I'm not. I'm ambivalent. Let's put it that way about him.
No, that's fair enough. That's why I want to ask this question, because the general feeling people think that, people are happy about this, but there are faults that I think can't be avoided, and a lot of people do have that other opinion of him.
He's not very good at selling players. That's the problem. That's another job you have to do, and he doesn't. How much money has he brought in? Not very
That's
much.
the problem.
Can I just drop a quick fact? It's not Spurs related, but turns out Man United haven't actually won away at Grimsby since 1905, and they don't look like they're going to be doing it tonight either.
Wow, that's an interesting stat. I suppose they don't play them that much, but even so, it's not a record that you want to be shouting about or hammering. It's going to be under a little bit of pressure already, as well as Graham Potter, West Ham. What's going on there? We won't talk about that. As nice as it is to rub it in, we'll wait and enjoy that West Ham pain for a little bit longer. Joey, how do you view this Paratici news? You excited to see him back? Do you think it's the right thing, the wrong thing?
I'm actually happy he's back. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag in regards to the recruitment he's brought in. I'm more on the side that it's been quite positive personally, because obviously you had the likes of Kulusevski and Bentancur to name the main two that first originally coming under Conte. And then if you really take it into a deeper level that I think majority of the fan base won't agree with, but Brennan Johnson as well. Obviously, Brennan Johnson scored the winner for us in the Europa League final. Make of that what you will in his time at Spurs and how he plays and whether how much he offers to the team apart from his goals. But I think mainly I'd say I've been pretty happy with Paratici. Talent ID seems to be there. Obviously, Christian Romero as well. But I think yeah, I agree with what Kallum originally said as well about the hierarchy. Like there should be a hierarchy at the club for sure. And I think from what I've seen of Johan Land, he hasn't really moved me, if that makes sense. I'm not really seeing what he's bringing to the club in that aspect of things, because I don't see what kind of pull he's meant to have. Like he should be able to get these deals over the line for us, I think, in regards to certain players. But yeah, I think so far I don't think Land has been very good for us, to be honest with you, my personal opinion.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Joey. Phillip, how do you view Paratici's time at the club?
Overall, I think he's obviously had a positive, influence over the club. If you look at his signings that he's made, yeah, there's been some funny ones in there, but I'd say the majority of them have, worked out. Kulusevski, Bentancur being kind of the two, I think, in that one summer that we got him for good prices as well, and really, helped elevate us at that time. But yeah, obviously Brian Gill, that whole deal, even the Veliz deal, things like this. 13 million for Veliz is a lot of money for an unproven, striker coming from Argentina, right? He was never a wonder kid either. But I think I'm happy he's coming back. I mean, I think everyone kind of assumed he would come back, but I'm still interested to see exactly what his official role is going to be. Whether he's going to be just kind of heading up the whole of the recruitment part. I think, as Cal said, I would assume that Lange would stay with the club, right, and be more responsible for the youth players, or younger talent, let's say, in Europe coming through. And I don't think Lange would have a problem with that, in all honesty. He also gets on obviously really well with Thomas Frank. So it'd be interesting to see how that works out. But Paratici was always known for being able to just broker deals, though, because it was a kind of black book. He'd be constantly on the phone, wouldn't he? Like during games, like, trying to connect people, trying to work out if a deal is possible. And, none of us really know what he's been doing this window so far. He's been kind of engaged as an external consultant, but has he been, again, leading negotiations? Is he able to lead negotiations in his role? I don't know, but I think it's overall positive he's coming back. But I wouldn't see it as a, like I don't know how to say, like a dream, like a dream hire. Like I wouldn't kind of go overboard with it, but I think it can only give the recruitment team a bit more structure again, because I think it's clear that Lange kind of heading it up, for whatever reason, it hasn't really worked, over the last couple of years. Albeit we've had Ange in there as well. We've had other people in the background. We had Scott Munn, who was in, wasn't he? And Scott Munn, with respect to him, probably our worst kind of hire in the club ever, if I could say it like that. I don't think anyone still knows what he actually did and what he actually... Yeah, anyways, he was in more of an operational role, but he was still heading it all up, and it didn't work. So I think if Paratici comes in, it's like a bit of a renewed breath of fresh air, maybe, that he's in permanently, can get his feet under the table again and really start cracking on.
Do you know, it's quite ironic, isn't it, that Scott Munn always wanted to ride his bike. He should have been at West Ham, should have gone down there. They've got a running track and a bike track next to their stadium. Wrong club, wrong side of London.
And of course, the name that we're not mentioning is Vinay Ventukesham. What's his role?
CEO.
There's him, and then also under Paratici there was Gabbiadini. Is it Gabbiadini?
Gabbiadini,
yeah, the chief scout, and obviously we've got Rob McKenzie now, who is absolutely useless.
Yes.
And Aston Villa were very happy to let him go, and I think they replaced him with Alex Fraser down at Villa, and we are stuck with Rob McKenzie, who is worse than Andy Scolding when he was head of recruitment. So I think that if we could get rid of Rob McKenzie and get back Gabbiadini, then we'd be great, to be fair, if Paratici come in as well. He was
amazing. Gabbiadini was amazing. Like, he was so highly rated, and when he left, a lot of people said, didn't they, that it, there was a massive hole left by that. Also with Paratici, because they obviously dovetailed together well. I don't know where he went though. Do we know?
I think he went out to Sampdoria or somewhere like that. He went back to Italy because apparently he wanted to become a technical director or a director of football when Paratici went, and they brought in Langer instead. So he kind of worked with them for 6 months and then left the club after that, after doing like a gardening leave setup.
He was very instrumental in Ange's first window when he first arrived. I think he was, people like Vicario and that were and Van der Ven were, Gabbiadini's and were involved in them. So, but yeah,
I mean, if we can get him, then happy days.
Well,
yeah, absolutely, that'd be ideal. So, Kallum, what do you think this means now for the future of recruitment, for the future of transfers, if I were Paratici at the helm?
I think it'd open up more avenues, but it's still to be seen, if you get what I mean, like in terms of what impact it will have. I think it'll open up opportunities, but I'm not holding out any breath yet, because we know with Spurs, we have to see it to believe it first.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's very, very true. Sean, what do you make of the job that Johan Langer has done so far? A lot of people like to try and compare with Aston Villa. If they're making any comparison, I've been very critical of Lang, but Villa have had an awful this window without him. So how do you view his time at Villa and also at Tottenham?
Well, to be fair, for Villa's this window, I think they're hampered by the fact that they nearly bust the bank and the wages that they were paying for the likes of Rashford and Asensio last year, and that's why they're being hampered. But I don't see the attraction. I mean, Villa's recruitment is far superior to ours in terms of identifying talent who can go straight into their team. And I'm a wee bit concerned that he's, just because of his closeness to Lang or his history with Frank, he's been kept on. But there should be a review. There needs to be a review of this window once the window closes on Monday night or Monday evening. So, but I'm not convinced I'm not convinced by any of our recruitment, to be fair, the people in charge of our recruitment. So we'll wait and see.
Indeed. Frustrating that we haven't replaced the likes of Son to date, and James Maddison got injured over a month ago now. But hey-ho. We move on to Basuma because he's now expected to go to Galatasaray, according to reports, several, including from Mike McGrath from the Daily Telegraph, saying that he's going to be a loan with an obligation, which will be very... that seems the most likely anyway at the moment. It'd be interesting to see what that fee is, that obligation. I think that's very key in this deal. So that's fair to say, Kallum, that it is key what that obligation is, whether it's like 5, 10, 15, 20 million to turn out what if it's a good deal or not.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Højbjerg deal that it seems to be reported on, that obviously Basuma's contract runs out at the end of next year. It spreads the cost for Galatasaray. But if the obligation does, well, it'll be an obligation to buy, and they'll just transfer 10 to 15 million next summer. So there is a guarantee we'll just get the money next year instead of this year, if you get what I mean. But at least it means
why would they take an obligation? They can speak to him for free in January.
Because that might be the only way to get it.
I think that's to me. It's like, what? His contract runs out in June next year. We're lending him for the year, and we're going to try and insist on an obligation.
Well, because they can negotiate and agree a contract with him now, whereas they can't do that at this point unless they pay out the money now.
Well, unless we extend his contract by a year, we're not going to get any money. I can see Galatasaray just turning around saying, we'll wait until you're free.
It's a good point. It's a really good point. Do they have to pay that obligation because he would be a free agent?
Well, it's what we did with Eric Dyer, we did with Højbjerg as well. It's more a deferral of transfer fee, if you get what I mean. It's just it's a bit of clever business, and Chelsea seem to do it all the time, and different clubs are doing it now to make sure that if a club's approaching FFP regulations, say, for example, they're in chance of breaching it, if they defer the money to pay him for Basuma next year, 1st of July, he'll be out of contract, but they've already got the money accosted for to Spurs. There's a contract in place. It means that they'll still buy him, but it means that they won't have it logged against their financial records this year. It'll be on next year's accounts when they have to submit them. Whereas if they do it now, they'd have to submit it by the 30th of June and probably fail.
Okay, it's interesting. Thank you, Kallum, for your insight and knowledge on that. So let's talk Basuma then. Joey, can I come to you? Do you think it's the right time to move on Basuma?
Yeah, I do actually. Well, I'd say I'm quite disappointed with how it's turned out with him as well, because when we first signed him, I was quite optimistic about him and I was quite impressed with what he done at Brighton and stuff. So I thought he was going to get a great player coming in, but overall his stuff off in and off the pitch, I think he's been very underwhelming personally. And yeah, all that stuff he's been doing off the pitch and his conduct and his behaviour and stuff like that, I don't want that anywhere near our club, especially when we're trying to improve ourselves and what we went through last season. Yeah, man, I think I'd rather see the back of him now, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I think none of us can think that it was even wise for Basuma to turn up late. It's not a good look at all for a new manager. But do you think, though, there's a case that maybe we should have kept Basuma as cover, as backup for Paulinho? Because for me, I should look at it and I thought we were quite short midfield. We should have bodies, but it looks like Paulinho is now the Basuma replacement. How do you view it?
No. Now's the time to move him on. He's been here for how many years has he been here? Like 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, as Joey said, when he came with, came off the back of such a successful run at Brighton, on the ball possession, like running, dribbling. He was almost like a bit of a mini kind of Dembele type of player, right? In terms of how he would help us in midfield. And he completely flattered to deceive. His saving grace was kind of coming into the Europa League team right at the end of last season and kind of giving a bit of stability in there. So, fair play to him. But his time at Spurs is done. It's a new manager now as well. He's going to get more of his own players in, hopefully. I think it's a good time to move on for all parties. You know, I don't keeping him on. We do still have Archie Gray, you know, and a lot of people will also say, well, is he ready to play in centre midfield? He did pretty well against Burnley, you know, in games like that. And if he's got like a Paulina in there as well, Gray can actually play more the 8 role as well. He's able to stride forward, you know, like, you know, I always think he looks a bit like Declan Rice when he dribbles coming forward, like how he just kind of brings the ball forward. I'm not comparing him to Declan Rice quality wise, but you know, he can do that. So I think Frank probably also knows that he's got enough stuff in midfield, you know, still to kind of work with. So it's the right time. It's the right time. And I think Basuma probably, you know, despite probably being comfortable in London, I think he'll probably recognise, I think, as well somewhere that it's time for a change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Thank you, Phillip. Sean, do you think that it hasn't really worked out for Basuma? There's obviously a lot of hype when we signed him, £35 million from Brighton. Think he's been inconsistent his time at Tottenham?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I mean, he did he not arrive under Conte, and Conte refused to pick him for a while? And, you know, it's only really latterly that he was being picked. I mean, he did his job. He was brilliant that night in Bilbao, and, you know, I'll be forever grateful for that. But, you know, this is a man that spends more, you know, seems to spend more time in Louis Vuitton than at Hotspur Way. And I'm sorry, when I want a footballer, I want him to be more concentrated on his craft. And I think, going to the point that Phillip made about Paulinho and his influence on Archie Gray, I think you cannot underestimate an experienced pro teaching the youngster to play that role. And I thought Archie Gray was very, very competent against Burnley, and there will be games that he gets to play. So, yeah, I'm you know, cheers, Eve, but watch out for the fake Louis Vuittons out in Turkey, mate.
Love it. Thank you very much, Sean. The last question on Basuma I'm going to give to you, Kallum. Are you happy with Gray as a cover, or do we need more cover? Again, I know it's hypothetical, probably not going to even go there, but are you happy that we're in this situation where we're letting Basuma go and he's not going to be replaced?
Theoretically, no, but I think I have to be happy with it, if you get what I mean, because I don't see us going out there because if we just bring someone else in, then it's pointless us having Gray, if you get what I mean, unless we go and get another loan signing. And
remember, Gray was in signing talks with Brentford when we bought him.
Yeah.
But Frank obviously wanted him.
Yeah, Frank definitely rates Gray, he rates Johnson as well, as we've seen. So, I mean, theoretically, I'd say that you've got Bentancur who can kind of play there if you really want to go senior for it, if you wanted a sort of a deeper option, if you wanted to play 2 10s and an 8. But I just think it'll depend on the game, to be honest. But yeah, Gray, I have high hopes for, so I will accept that option. And I don't want another loan signing, to be honest, because it's just completely wasting money and our time.
No, fair enough. That's fair enough. But having said that, though, Paulinho as a loan, I think, is a good deal.
Yeah, as a deal, yeah, that's fine. But if we go and get 2 6s in on loan, I mean, literally, that's just lazy.
Of course it is.
Is there an option with Paulinho?
Yeah, 25 million.
Just quite good, I think. But we'll see how it goes. Let's move on now to the number 10 search, the one that has caught the attention for an awfully long time. I'm sure we'll drag right until deadline day. Sean, I want to start by talking about Xavi Simons, because there's outside reports that Tottenham could come sniffing late on. You've been rumours to go to Chelsea or window. It feels like one of those that maybe has been force-fed all through this window. Do you see this happening? Can we sway Xavi Simons, who looks set in his mind to join Chelsea?
If a player wants to go somewhere else, then not really. I mean, Eze has been an absolutely salutary lesson for us this summer. If a player's heart is set on a team, he's going to go to that team. Good player, you know, and you know, from all counts, they're saying that he's certainly keen on the Premier League. But you know, when Chelsea come in, we have to accept that there's, you know, with their wage structure and, you know, the sort of like the fact that they're they're spendthrift. It's we just cannot compete with that. I would love to have him, but I don't know. It would be a nice idea, but I can't see it happening, to be fair.
No, again, I appreciate your honesty. Thank you, Sean. Kallum, you know me with the wages and how I think we've got an outdated, wage structure at the club. It's something that really annoys me and always will, I think. Is this a barrier here, the wage structure, knowing that Chelsea offer sky-high wages, lengthy contracts, lengthy bonuses? Is that a big convincer for Xavi Simons?
Well, Chelsea don't offer high wages. They offer the same level of wages, but they offer higher and longer contract lengths, and they have better bonuses as such. But ultimately, yes, we probably, if we did get Simons, he would be pushing the top end of the sort of scale, because I believe I saw something earlier where he's on about 11 million a year. I think that's in, I don't know whether it's pounds or euros, but if I just do a quick calculation, in pounds.
Wow.
Right. So realistically, if we did that before tax, it'd be 220,000 a week he'd have to be on. And we've just made Romero our top earner at about 200 grand. I don't see it on the wages front. H, you want to challenge me or say something, don't you?
I am, and I don't like to a lot. Well, I do with you, but that's a secret. But I'm going to disagree with your point about Chelsea wages. Totally agree with you, the contract. But I'm just looking here. Chelsea's highest player. It's not a lot. Your point is generally right. I'm going to be picky here. Reece James apparently is the highest owner on 250 grand. Our highest, as you said, is now Romero with 200 grand. Chelsea have 4, including Reece James, over 200 grand.
Are they trying to sell most of them this summer in Kunku, Jackson, all them people that they can't flog?
No, one of them's in Kunku, but like Chilwell, Fofana, James, even Enzo Fernandez, 180. They're a little bit ahead of us with wage.
They seem to be their original sort of signings under Bowley, don't they? They've they're stuck at that cap level. Now they're trying to re-level it because the PSR contributions, but you're not wrong, because the volume of players that are on higher wages, i.e. towards the 200 grand mark, is considerable by them. But based on wages alone, I don't see Simons coming, to be honest. It just doesn't make sense. Why would we make Romero our captain? We want to build the project around him, and then we go out and buy Xavi Simons, who is a good player, but is realistically unproven in the Premier League, isn't he? So, I mean, it doesn't...
Maybe he's got an Anderton clause, Darren Anderton clause, where he becomes the record player. So if you promise a player more than what Romero's getting, he gets it automatically.
Potentially, but Daniel Levy would never fall for that. He'd never put that sort of clause in, would he? I don't think. It's from a business point of view, it doesn't work, but we know that Simons is a cracking player. Don't get me wrong. He's probably one of the best, if not best, Dutch players at the moment. And it doesn't really help that a lot of their team are either older or still too young for it. But if you was going to say to him, if you wanted to come for the football, you'd come to Spurs. If you was going to go for the money, you'd probably go to Chelsea. The problem is he will fall into that waste bin of players that they've got, that every 2 years they will flog you on. Like, I think it was something like from Leslie Ogachua or something like that, who got transferred in the last 2 weeks. He said it was horrendous how he was treated there. How must that sound to incoming transfers? You don't want to be treated like a piece of crap on someone's foot, do you? And that's what these players have to think of. Do they want to go and join the Chelsea merry-go-round of having 20 left wingers and 20 strikers and 20 right wingers, or come to Spurs and he'll probably be guaranteed first choice? To be honest, I would say as a 10 or a left mid.
Maybe if we hang around, we'll get Pedro Neto after all.
Yeah, just a bit too late. Yeah, you never know. But
That was
Kallum, you
another
mentioned
one,
that
wasn't
player there. He went to Burnley and so did Broja. I mean, Chelsea got what, 40, 50 million off of Burnley. So, we talk about Chelsea, the masters of selling. That's a great example. But you are where you are right, actually, Kallum, with the terms of new contracts. And a good example to back up your point is Nicholas Jackson, actually. You saying what that whopping contract, 2032, wasn't it? He's only on 100 grand.
But they want to sell him within a year and all that. That's the thing. They do it all for resale value. I mean, look, they value Jackson at what, nearly 100 grand or 100 million? I mean, in what day and age do you say that Nicholas Jackson is £100 million player?
Yeah,
We sold Kane for 100 million. Nicholas Jackson isn't even worth Kane's right boot compared to him. So what does that say? It's silly money now. It's ridiculous.
Is Joey, if we do sign Xavi Simons, though, what would you say his best position is? It's notably, isn't it, the 10, but he can also play left wing.
Yeah, I'd say from what I've seen, he's predominantly been at his best in the number 10. Again, that would be a big coup for us. Do I see it happening? No, not really. Especially with the forced-fed propaganda we're being fed from Fabrizio Romano. I don't know who's paying him to put out all of these stories, but
Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, that's a whole nother question for a whole nother day. But in regards to Xavi Simons, I'd say number 10 from what I've seen with my own two eyes personally. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Okay. We just a quick thing on Fabrizio, and I'm not going to say whether he's bad or good or this summer, etc., etc. But what I will say is things like Garnacho and Xavi Simons. This story seems to have been delivered from when the transfer window before it opened. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Look at Savinha. I mean, it's literally the same post, but worded ever so slightly differently. With maybe the and in a different place and the soon in a different place. The general thing is it's City won't let him go. Someone's blocking it. We've just got the same thing over and over again. So I just feel like maybe it is a little bit false from the player side, particularly Garnacho. What point do you go? Chelsea just aren't interested in you, mate. What point do you think that? But what do we know? What do I know in particular? Phillip, if we sign Xavi Simons, which would be amazing, I'm sure you agree, what can he bring to Tottenham?
Everything. It would be a dream signing, to be honest, and he would play number 10. He'd play through the middle more and can kind of drift out wide, but he'd bring a bit of unpredictability. He can do all the little flicks, but they generally work. He brings goals, he brings the passing, he brings speed. It'd be an amazing signing. I mean, again, what kind of annoys me about look, if he wants to go to Chelsea and he's got his heart set on it, and for whatever reason, then good luck to him, right? If they manage to shift their players, but I think what annoys me a bit is if he came to Spurs, he's such a Spurs player. It'd almost be a bit like kind of when we signed Van der Vaart, like in terms of that unpredictability, that top quality level, just that energy. He'd be a superstar, and it just annoys me a bit from our perspective that maybe we wouldn't just try and go the extra mile, maybe slightly. And again, whether that is just on the wages, if it's possible, or the story to him, or the fee, or how it's structured, right? Just to do everything we can to get someone like him in, because he would solve all of our problems straight away. And he would also kind of be the figure or one of the figureheads of this new team. And he would have the opportunity to be the star in that kind of attacking sense. If he goes Chelsea, I think as Cal said, or maybe Joey, or it was you, Sean, he'd be one of 20 kind of players, right? Who kind of plays a few games here and there. So he would bring everything to the team in terms of what, like being able to play, attacking wise in possession on games at home or on the break. He can kind of flick the ball like on those little quick breakaways. But I just saw actually now that AC Milan are in talks for Christian Nkunku, advanced talks. And the Garnacho signing seems to almost be done. And Nicholas Jackson almost seems to be done for Munich. So if I'm being honest as well, if I was being honest and maybe realistic, I would probably expect Simons to still go to Chelsea maybe by the weekend or at the weekend if they manage to get all of those deals done. But who knows? maybe there is a chance. I think it will come down to the player, though, won't it? At the end of the day, if Simons has got even an inkling of being up for Spurs, and if Frank really is talking with him this evening, like a couple of accounts were posting out today, saying that Frank was due to have a call with him this evening to kind of present the project. If that's true, maybe we have a chance. So I guess we should stay positive on it for now.
Absolutely,
But
that's what we love to do.
We've got to hope with him, I think. And again, if it's not Simons, then we just got to hope that that the guys there have got 2 or 3 backups lined up still, right? Every time, even if it is an El Canus, just as an example, throwing it out there. I think right now we just need to end the window with a 10 who's able to kind of dribble and also progress the ball, right? And obviously chip in with goals. That's all we need.
Exactly what we need. Thank you, Philip. Sean, I'm going to come back to you. Another name I want to throw into the hat is Nico Pass of Como. He's unlikely to happen, isn't it? It seems like he's eventually going to be a Real Madrid player. The Como president's come out and said that there's been no Tottenham offer or no offer for any other club, and how he has dreams, the player, of playing at the Bernabeu. So this just seems something like he's going to be at Como for another season, then Real Madrid, doesn't it, in the summer of 2026?
To me, it just sort of stank of desperation. And if a player's in the orbit of Real Madrid, they're not coming to Tottenham Hotspur. They're the best mill in the world. We love our football club, and we think we love them above Real Madrid. But footballers, particularly South Americans, they love Real Madrid. So it was never a star as far as I was concerned.
Fair enough. And sticking with you, Sean, can I move on to Lucas Paquetá of West Ham? Would you fancy another West Ham raid for a top asset?
It would be great for the meltdowns and the banter, but I don't know. He seems to, he disappears at times, and I'm not sure that he's the answer. It's. And how much is he going to cost? Because I think West Ham certainly feel like that we had their pants down when we bought Kudus for 55 million. So are they going to sort of try and recoup some money when they sell Paquetá? I don't know. I think it's wishful thinking, and I think that's a club that's in turmoil. Maybe that means that players want to leave, but I'm not against him in particular, but I remain to be convinced. To be fair, the scandal that's hung over him for ages doesn't help me. In my case, I don't want players who bring unwelcome headlines to my football club. Simple as that.
Good point. He has now been cleared, I do believe, of that, but you do make a good point. You don't want any stuff like that, allegations or anything going round. Joey, can I come to you and keeping on the subject of Lewis Paquetá? Do you think he would be a good signing?
Yeah, I definitely think he'd be a good signing. Definitely got the ability. You know what he can do in the Premier League. He's Premier League proven. But being truthfully honest, are West Ham going to tell us are their next best player again in the same window? Highly unlikely. I did read something a couple of nights ago about if we offer something in the region of 60 million, obviously we could bend their arm a bit. But I personally just don't see it. I just don't see it really. But I think he would be a great addition for sure.
Thank you very much, Joey. Philip, for you, you shook your head. Is he worth 60 million? 65, let's say.
I don't think so. No, he's not. And I agree with both of you, actually. I agree with Joey in terms of the fact that I don't think, West Ham will do anything they can, right, to avoid him coming to us. Their fans would, forget what happened with Eze last week. Their fans would go absolutely crazy, right, losing both of their two best players, apart from Bowen, to us. I would imagine that they would try and get a bidding war or something for him in the last days of the window if it was really clear that he wanted to go, kind of thing. and try and sell him to someone else. But he's not worth 60 million anyways. And I agree with Sean in terms of the fact that, he does go missing, and he's a very good player. I mean, I'm not debating, I'm not going against that, but he doesn't really excite me somehow. I don't know. He never has excited me massively. Like, he does some good things. He's obviously got tricks, he's a good passer. But yeah, he doesn't seem to run games or like kind of, get on the ball and kind of dictate games. Like, he can go missing. And I don't know, I could just see him, if we did spend a lot of money on him, I could see him being the next flop kind of thing, like the next big player that we would have actually spent money for, and him not really bringing enough return for it, I'd be very disappointed if we ended up spending 55 or 60 million on him when we could have got a Xavi Simons for like probably pretty much the same price, right? Regardless of where he wants to go. And to be honest, I'm sure there's got to be other options in the market, at prices kind of even less than that, to be honest. I'd be annoyed. I would rather go and buy that El Canoes, as I said, for 30 million from Leicester, who's got, league experience. He's only 20, so he's not like a massive risk, but he's probably ready to play games. So yeah, to answer your question again, I don't think he's worth the money. Unless we got him on a cut price deal or something, but obviously that's not going to happen. So I'm not that bothered about him.
Okay, thank you. But El Canoes could be a good shout, because the reports are saying that the deal with Palace has completely fallen through. So that's a good shout.
Yeah, I for 30 million, he can play on the left. He can play at number 10. Yeah, he's a bit more raw, but he's got quite a lot of league games in England, right? So he's someone you could certainly build on, and he would have resale value. He would be a player that if he didn't work out, but he still played enough, you could sell him probably for more in the future, which is also what we want to get towards, isn't it? So for me, he would almost be at this point a bit of a no-brainer for me. But there doesn't seem to be any concrete links with him. He did have a release clause, which is only 26 million, I think, and that expired. And since the Palace deal kind of hasn't happened, there hasn't really been too much, but who knows? I would file that under the kind of like keep an eye on this one closely, folder, I would say, until Monday. He'll definitely go somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he will as well, if not in January for sure. Left winger search then I want to move on to. Joey, can I kick it off with you? Savinha, we've got to talk about him. He's been a name that's been discussed now for several weeks. I mean, firstly, this drill has dragged on, hasn't it? Do you think that he will stay at City at this point?
It's definitely looking that way, H. I've seen he wants to come. I've seen a lot of reports saying he wants to come, but it's the hierarchy of City that's blocking it. So if they're blocking it and they're being so persistent with it at this point, I think, it's very unlikely that it will get done unless we offer something astronomically huge for them to turn their head at it. Yeah, I don't see it happening now, really.
Okay, and Joe, stay with you. Do you think someone like a Semenya, who again is probably, I understand, completely unlikely to happen because of outgoings that Bournemouth have had, and find a replacement probably as well at this stage, as well as various other things, but do you think he would be maybe even a better option than Savinha?
Almost definitely. I think it'd definitely be on par. I think it would be a great coup for us as well, considering the circumstances. So yeah, I think that'd be a good addition to the squad for sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Joey. Sean, if hypothetically Savinha doesn't come, which looks the most likely thing to happen right now, that he stays at City not being able to get Rodrigo at the moment over the line. For you, alternatives, are there any out there that you prefer in that left wing candidate at the moment?
Yeah, the only one that I'm not really an expert on most of the European leagues, but the only league I really follow is Serie A, and why aren't we going in for Lookman? I mean, if you saw Lookman's performance in that Europa League final, and you've seen what he's been doing regularly for Atalanta, who are not one of the big clubs in Italy, why aren't we in for him? We could have him, and not a ridiculous price as well, because Atalanta are desperate to get rid of him. and they tried to get him. They tried to sell him to Inter, and Inter, or rather, they stopped him from going to Inter, but they would sell him outside of Italy like that, and I can't understand why we're not linked with him, because I think he would be an excellent addition, because he can play as a second striker, he can play as a striker, but he could also play left wing. To me, it's a no-brainer.
I agree with you, and I had that down as my talking points in a couple of minutes. I can bring it up now, so I appreciate you mentioning it. Phillip, I'll come to you on that now it's been brought up. Would you like to see Tottenham go? But look, well, let's say, give me Sports say that he's going to cost about 50 million euros, because as Sean said, they want to sell him. Would you pay that?
Yeah.
I think I would. I saw that we have been linked with him today. There was a couple of sources saying that we've spoken with his club, and he wants to leave, doesn't he, Sean? Wasn't there a?
Yeah,
he had some. I can't remember if it was like some
verbal agreement or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had some issues with the Italian fans as well, I think, didn't he, last season? Or there was some crowd or abuse topics as well. So I think he's obviously someone that we could get if we go in and pay the money. Then Lookman will come to us in a heartbeat, right? His age is still fine. He's probably still got a sell on value as well, looking at it like that way. But he'd probably hit the ground running. I think some fans will probably say, he's played in Germany, he's played in England as well, and never really, kind of made it happen there. But maybe he is just a bit of a late bloomer. He's done really well in Italy, like really, really well. He does like to cut inside, I think, but that doesn't need to be a problem. Right now, I mean, if we don't get anyone else, I would take him, and I would spend 50 million on him, but he wouldn't have been my first choice certainly at the beginning of the window. But right now, why not? He's genuinely a quality player, actually. The question is whether probably if we get a number 10, will we still go and get that number 11? That's what I'm thinking at the moment, or vice versa. But who knows? But yeah, he's a good player. Like, why not? Definitely strengthen us.
Absolutely would. Thank you to all of you on that. So I want to move on to a couple of last players that we've been linked with recently in different positions. So firstly, Hincapié by Leverkusen. Joey, do you think he'll end up at Arsenal? And isn't it frustrating now second player losing out to going to Arsenal?
I'll be disappointed if he goes to Arsenal. Again, that's another quality left-sided centre-back that can also play left-back. But as far as I'm aware, didn't Ali Gold come out and say that we wasn't actually in for him and that it was basically clickbait nonsense from Fabrizio?
That was true, but then Paul O'Keefe said that Tottenham 100% were in for him and did bid for him, which is interesting. So they actually contradicted each other, which I don't think was picked up at the time.
Wow, interesting. But yeah, I think he's a very good player. Was instrumental in them winning the league last season or the season before. And yeah, it'll be very annoying if he was to go over there for sure.
I mean, Ali Gold and Paul O'Keefe have been pretty much on par with a lot of things and very, very credible and reliable. So I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was a case that Tottenham were not interested but put in a bid. I don't know. I have to find out. Someone is likely right and someone is likely wrong, which does happen in the football transfers world. Sean, can I keep with you on Hincapié? Hypothetical, if we did sign him, would it be really good to have that kind of level of centre-back depth? Because people forget, I think, that Draxler is still out injured, Takai still out injured. We're going to let Vuskovic go on loan.
Yeah, I mean, we need depth. If we learned anything from last season is that we can't have enough centre-backs and quality centre-backs. But it sounds like Hincapié is already destined for Arsenal, and I think if we did make a bid, we probably made a bid in it early in the window and got no joy, and that's probably where that hangs around from. But it's obviously become clear. What amazes me is where have Arsenal got all this money from? because we were
They're going to have to
told,
sell. Surely they
Yeah.
have to sell players. Yeah.
It's strange that they suddenly they've obviously got a bunch of fivers down the back of the sofa. It's madness. But again, Man United, where they got their money from, they're just a money pit, aren't they? So, which is doing them very well tonight, from allegedly.
Yeah, little old Grimsby town, lovely stuff. Philip, I'll come to you. Last player, Adrian Rabiot. I want to talk about the midfielder. I mean, a player that Tottenham seems to be linked to every window. Got one other finger from Joey, so we'll come to him after that, and even something else from Sean, who's not happy either. But Philip, we'll start with you. Is it a sign or a void? I get the feeling amongst the panel is going to be a void. I'm going to ask anyway.
Yeah, void. I mean, void. It would be if we would sign him. I don't. The question would be like, why? Why are we going for him? Void.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
He's sorry. I was just going to say he's got questionable, character. He's a bit of a troublemaker. He's not a team player. I don't know how old he is, but he must be in his early 30s, like even mid 30s. He must be. He's quite old, isn't he?
I think he's 30.
Okay. I thought he was a bit older than that actually, but he's a completely the wrong kind of profile. We don't need someone like that. He's not going to play number 10. Yeah. Yeah. Void.
Okay. Sure.
Don't even lift the phone. This player will bring nothing but poison into the dressing room, which is one thing that we retained from last season, is the kind of band of brothers atmosphere within the. You can see that with the way they performed on Saturday at Man City. That kind of we'll run through brick walls for each other. Well, why is he suddenly available? He's had a fight with one of his teammates in the dressing room, for God's sake. Don't even go there. I will honestly. That should be enough to protest outside Lily White House if we go anywhere near that player. Terrible idea.
Absolutely, thank you. Before we get on to the two cup draws, then Carabao Cup and Champions League, both due soon. Joey, talk to you, Rabiot. How do you feel?
With all due respect, keep him and his mother far away from N17. They bring nothing but trouble, and like Sean said, they're a poison chalice. With all due respect, they bring nothing but trouble. Keep them far away from that band of brotherhood that we have in the club at the moment, and the cohesion we have. Who do nothing but bring disharmony to the dressing room. No, thank you. Keep him well away.
No, thank you very much. I did think that would be the feeling amongst the panel, but you don't know unless you ask. So let's move on to the two cup draws. Start with the Carabao Cup draw. So the time when people listen on podcast platforms, the draw would have been concluded, but for us, it's in like 35 minutes time at the time of recording. So quick reminder that we cannot be drawn, and when I say we, I mean Tottenham, cannot be drawn against any of the following: Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea, Newcastle United, Aston Villa, or Nottingham Forest. It's a new rule this year. We can't face another European team. Basically, European teams can't face each other. I just wish when people explain the rule, they would just say that. They try and get people go, yeah, but you can't play them, but it means you're going to play them out of this pot. Just say European teams can't play each other. It's that simple. But a quick stat for you here. Tottenham have not been drawn at home in the third round of the Carabao Cup since 2018, 7 years ago. That fixture took place actually at the MK Dons Stadium, MK, with Wembley being unavailable and the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium still under construction. I love that. We actually drew 2-2 with Watford, winning on penalties. So make your mind up what's the craziest about that. The fact that we draw against Watford, Tottenham winning on penalties. The fact it's all the way in 2018 that it's at MK Dons Stadium. The fact we didn't have a stadium. There's so many crazy things about that. That's why I really love the stat. Sean, kick it off with you. Who do you want Tottenham to face in the third round? Have you got any names in mind or anyone you want to avoid for the same reason?
Well, maybe we want to avoid Grimsby Town.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the moment.
Yeah, but anyway, no, I mean, you just it's the luck of the draw, and you know, you just got to beat all the other teams anyway. So whether you face Man City or whatever, well, as you said, we're precluded from playing the European teams, but yeah, it's always good to give a payday out to one of the lower league teams if they come to us or we go and visit them. Great little competition. We got to the semi-final last year, which people seem to forget. Talking about going deep in competitions, we got to the semi-final and we're only beaten by Liverpool. So yeah, let's anyone, I don't care.
Joey, do you have any preference on who we face or anyone you want to be like, I don't really want to play them?
Oh, second to what Sean said and said, let's avoid Grimsby Town for sure. Definitely don't want to go Grimsby away. But I think it could be anyone really. Obviously, we can't put none of the European sides, but it could be anyone. I'll say I'd rather we get another League 2, League 1 club for sure, obviously, and avoid the Premier League teams earlier on in the draws. Because they can get a bit sticky. But that would be my hope, I should say.
Okay. Phillip, slightly different question to you. I want to know if you've got any prediction you think Tottenham might get.
Yeah, well, Grimsby. No, I don't. I mean, I think it doesn't really matter like who we get. We'd all like to win a domestic cup again. I think the squad management, is going to be key as well, as always. But Frank will kind of show what he's about as well with that in terms of getting the most out of the squad. I think we all just want a decent cup run again, at least get to the semis and then see what happens. I don't understand why they're changing the rules again with like European teams and stuff, because that kind of just makes it seem a bit, I don't want to say a fake kind of like competition, but kind of plays with it a bit. But for me, it was always the FA Cup anyways, right? I mean, I'd much rather, we get...
100%.
Oh, I mean, so it always has been, especially for us, for Spurs as well. And League Cup, of course, we've won a couple over the last 20, 30 years. But if I'm being honest, I only really get excited about the FA Cup.
Wembley in May. Wembley in May.
Exactly.
You can't beat it. We can't beat it. I mean, I can't believe I walked out of the 91 Cup final and we were the record holders of the FA Cup. And I never thought that here we are, X years later, that we'd never won it again. Unbelievable. Give me the FA Cup.
Like with the Dallas Cowboys.
Exactly, yeah.
Great stuff. No, thank you very much for all that. And last but not least, the Champions League draw then, which is on Thursday. Sean, kicking it off with you. This is where it's a little bit different. New European format, second year now. Anyone you want us to draw or avoid?
Well, Club Brugge have just handed Rangers their backside 6-0. Doesn't look like we're going to get a reunion with Jose, because Fenerbahce are losing 1-0 to Benfica. Karabakh, we got Karabakh again, and I do believe that Bodo Glimt qualified again for the first time in the Champions League. So trip to the Arctic Circle. What a nice thought. Yeah,
part 2. Indeed. I mean, impressive how we coped there. I had fears going there, but we overcome that. Joey, Champions League draw, are you under the impression that for you personally, you want to play the best sides, your Real Madrids, etc., your Bayern Munich, so you're one of those that you want to avoid them and just get as far as you can?
I'd say, obviously, my brain tells me I want to avoid them and get as far as we can, but at the same time, the emotional side of me wants to get like a Barcelona away or something like that. Do you know what I mean? But I think I've seen a lot of people on social media talking about they want to get the team in Kazakhstan that knocked out Celtic yesterday. Don't ask me why, because it's pretty much near enough going to China. Yeah. So I don't know why everyone's so buzzing about that. But yeah, I really want to avoid the big boys, but I wouldn't mind Barcelona away for sure.
Well, we're going to have to play 2 teams in pot 1. We have to play, as it stands, I think we're in pot 3, Harry. I could be mistaken.
I believe that's what I think. Yeah, I think so.
I think we have 2 teams in pot 2. They're going to be big teams. What I'd like to have is a reunion with Mr. Conte and that Napoli, and give them a good doing. Yeah,
that would be very, very interesting. And Philip, lastly, what about for you?
Yeah, same as Sean. Actually, I'd love to play Napoli. And maybe from a slightly selfish perspective, I just want to have as many German teams again away. So here in Germany, because pretty easy to just jump on the train and go to the games as we did last season. We always get a quality, group of Spurs fans over from the UK, and all the German Spurs all come together as well. Or something else even, France, Netherlands. I wouldn't mind getting revenge on PSG from an emotional perspective, get out the way rather than facing them later in the competition. But yeah, no, it's as Joey said, Barca or Real from an emotional perspective is just quality though, isn't it? Like you want to play against those teams on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, under the floodlights. Those are the kind of teams you want to go, and you want to go to the Bernabeu. You want to go to the new Bernabeu, right, as well, and to the possibly the new camp if it's already open. I'm not sure, but if people are able to go to away games, and those are the kind of away games that dreams are kind of made of, aren't they? So, but with the format as it is, we'll get a nice little selection, won't we? I think of games. So yeah, really excited for that. Really excited for that. When is the first game actually in the Champions League? Do we know when is it?
I think it's after the international break. Isn't it after the international break?
Just after, isn't it? Yeah. I'll tell you what. Bear with me. I'm just going to have a quick look now. I want to get the exact date. I bet it won't tell me now, will it? No, it's not going to tell me, which is annoying. But it is somewhere after that international break. I've got a feeling it's quite instant after. Best place to try and find a gap. I reckon somewhere between that gap of 20th of September to 28th. I had to predict, but I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I do. It can't be long. But no, it should be good. That wraps up, I think, nicely for this week's episode. So this week's do more than one a week now episode of the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. Busiest time, I'd say, of the year for any Tottenham creator. It's very exciting at the same time. You've got the transfer window still open and you've got the season underway. So stay tuned. I think I've got podcasts majority of days, if not all, from now until the window closes, which is very rare, up from the 2 a week. So stay tuned. Massive thanks to my panel tonight. Let's go through and see if you can find them across all socials. Firstly, Sean, thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you on the socials?
Yeah, you can get me on Twitter X on Tottenham Tifosi 61. And you might see me pop up on Deji Spurs, or but mostly it's Twitter X. You'll see me.
Lovely stuff. Really appreciate you coming on, my friend. Thank you.
No problem.
Joey, thank you as well. Big thanks to you. Looking forward to having you on as well more in the future. Where can people find you on the socials?
On social media, so that would be Instagram and TikTok on Joey Huncho1. I have a dedicated Tottenham page on Instagram too, which is Tottenham Joe 23, and my other sports page that I'm involved with as well is called Benchview Sport TV. So you can also find me on there. Thank you for having me as well here, and shout out to Travis as well if he's still in it.
Yeah, big up Travis for listening in the chat. Also, thanks to Kallum. I didn't mention who left earlier. I had to leave by 9. I did tell him we'd get it done by then, but typical me style, I overplan with stuff, and I just love talking Tottenham, so it's always going to go over. If I tell you it finishes by 9, add an extra hour on. Phillip, thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you across the socials? And please do talk to people about your role within South Germany Spurs. I should have to ask you every time. You should talk yourself up.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a pleasure to be on as always. So thanks for the invite. I'm mainly on Twitter, on X, at Frankfurt Spurs. I will be starting a YouTube little channel at some point, probably to talk a bit about German football, actually, and obviously Spurs as well, but try and do something a bit different. But yeah, mainly on X. And yeah, like I got onto the board, or got promoted onto the board of our official Spurs supporters club that we set up a couple of years ago, which covers the south part of Germany. And we've just got over 100 fans now officially in the club. We're growing all the time. So that's kind of one of my little side projects as well with my fellow board members on there, is to keep growing that, keep improving the kind of relations and communications with the club as well around these things, because you get invited onto forums and all this kind of stuff. So keen to see how that changes this year as well, with Vinay Venkatesham coming in, because he's obviously very big on all those kind of things. So yeah, watch this space. But thanks for having me on again.
No, thank you. Absolutely, come on, you Spurs. Thank you all for coming on. If you're listening on YouTube, please do like and subscribe. If you're listening after on a podcast platform, please drop us a follow and a 5-star review. Check out all these guys across all socials. You know who I am, Harry Scarfe. It's a pleasure to keep delivering new content. So make sure to stay tuned. Lots of content coming across all the socials. But for now, a massive come on, you Spurs.